This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
Sophie Payten is with us. You may also know her as the creative force behind Gordi. The new album is called Our Two Skins. Sophie, are you in New South Wales right now in Sydney? Is that where I am speaking to you?
I'm actually in Melbourne, in Victoria, so a little further south.
Is it winter yet?
It is, yeah. It's been bitterly cold and rainy and quite miserable. So I'm rugged up.
Well, so the first important question is, you are healthy, all your loved ones are healthy, everyone's good, I hope?
Yes, absolutely. In the large part, I think Australia has been very fortunate in largely avoiding the, catastrophic scenes that we've seen elsewhere around the world.
I think I'm probably not the first one to bring this up to you, but I find it a little ironic that during a pandemic, you not so long ago had finished all of your medical classes to become a doctor. Can I call you a doctor or no?
Yes, you can.
So what's that like for you? It's just a little ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite cruel. I quit my job at working at a hospital at the end of January, and then I plan to take this year and the foreseeable future off medicine and focus on music. And I was 2 weeks into a year-long schedule of touring when coronavirus sort of went into full swing, and so I had to fly back to Australia, and I kind of put my name down in the sort of database of medical professionals that can be called on to work in like COVID clinics and stuff. But because Australia has sort of avoided the crisis in health terms, I haven't kind of had the call up to go back to work. So now I'm sort of I can't tour, and I also can't go back to my other job. So I'm sort of stuck in no man's land at the moment.
Do you still have a stethoscope?
I do, and I had to, when I got back from London in March, I went to my parents' house because I'd thrown my medical backpack there on my last day of work, and I fished out my stethoscope and I plugged it into my ears and made sure it was working at the diaphragm part. And I was like, all right, hopefully I'll remember how to use this and I'll be good to go.
Well, tell me what it's like there now. And Melbourne is a pretty big city. I'm in New York City. You're in Melbourne. That's also a big city. But tell me what it's like daily. You said that Australia has sort of handled this well, maybe better than other countries. But daily, what's it like there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Australia has the benefit of being an island that is far away, that people, only travel to sort of it's not a thoroughfare. So it was easy to sort of shut borders, and also we were, in sort of summery seasons, so we weren't hit with the ordinary flu season. But yeah, just in the last couple of weeks, the lockdown has started to lift. So I actually went out for dinner tonight for the first time in 3 months.
I'm so jealous, and everyone watching and listening to this is so jealous.
I know. It was amazing. We went to a pub for dinner, and there was a guy at the table next to us who I think he was swinging on his chair or something, and he fell over and knocked over all these wine glasses, and his mate stood up and was the pub was sort of a third full because you can only have so many people in there, and he was sorry everyone, it's his first night back at the pub, and everyone started cheering, and it was quite a scene.
You should have been dude, way to contribute to the stereotype of Australians.
I know. But no, it was very nice to kind of, be back out there, and that will sort of slowly increase, in numbers of people that can be out in the major cities. But it's, I think it's a long way before we have big live music shows again, unfortunately.
Is it possible? I think I saw you in New York City on a rooftop of the Standard Hotel in the East Village. Is that possible?
Yeah, that is wholly possible. That was such a sort of random gig, and someone was like, oh, you're gonna play on this this hotel rooftop, and I was like, sure, and brought my stuff, and got the lift up all the way to the penthouse of the Standard, and I was like, am I in the right place?
Right. Oh yeah, everyone thinks that when they go there.
Yeah, and it was I got to look at the whole of Manhattan as I was playing some tunes, and it was nice full room and lots of really cool people, and it was a really good show. I'm glad you were there.
Yeah, the view there is insane, right? I mean, the
Yeah,
terrace outside and everything is unbelievable.
yeah, so
Um,
good.
Congrats on making such a beautiful album. It is so great. You were born in a small town, so I'll cue the John Mellencamp song right now. But about 2,000 people, I think, is the number of people in your
Mm.
town that you were born in. Your family has been there for like decades and 100 years or something.
Yeah, over 100 years.
Have you done Ancestry.com yet to trace your roots?
Well, we don't have to because they're all in the town. We're basically related to everybody. So
Wow.
you can go door knocking, and that's the equivalent of ancestry.com.
So everyone knows everything, I guess, right?
Yeah, basically.
But you went back to this small town with your co-producers to make this album, right?
Yeah, I did. I'd kind of, the first couple of years of my career, I spent everywhere else other than home. And I thought, I had, for a number of reasons, a really strong pull to go back to Canowindra. So two guys that I worked with who are um, who work in-house at the Bon Iver studio in Wisconsin,
Right.
who I'd met over the years, and they became really close mates of mine. And so I brought them out to my parents' farm, and we set up a little studio in an old cottage that was built in 1860 for 4 weeks, and yeah, made an album, and it was a really cool time.
This cottage had, I'm assuming, no cell phone service, no Wi-Fi.
No, no electricity to half of the house, no running water, like no toilet, and like yeah, we sort of had to like patch everything in according to like which PowerPoints would work, and yeah, no cell phone reception whatsoever.
Talk about woodshedding.
Yeah, I know. It was really nice though, and we ended up walking around the farm and like carrying a field recorder and banging heaps of stuff, and we'd have to take breaks according to like either the farming schedule, like when there would be sheep coming up the lane, or like when the cockatoos, like this type of bird here, which has a terrible cry, like they'd go crazy at like 4:30 p.m. So we'd have to sort of like work in shifts around the natural habitats of everything.
Sophie, this sounds like a movie already. I mean, it's unbelievably cool. But
Yeah.
this whole process really resulted in such a beautiful album, and it's tragic almost that a fan of yours like me can't go and see you perform this whole album. Did you have a tour already booked
Mm.
with your schedule for like 2020?
Yeah, so right now, I would have been finishing up the Of Monsters and Men tour, which I was supporting all across the States. And then I was coming home to open for Bon Iver on their stadium tour throughout Australia. And then I was coming back in July for a headline tour all through the States. And then, going back to Europe in the latter part of the year. So yeah, it's all been pulled. The Bond tour has been pushed to March next year. There's talk of the of Monsters and Men tour for the latter part of this year, but I just don't see that happening. But I can assure you, as soon as the gates are open, I will be first on the plane and coming to play shows.
So basically pushing everything to 2021 at this point.
It's kind of seems like that. Yeah, I think so. So I don't know. It's going to be a weird like catch up process, but hopefully everyone will, I don't know, hang in there with us.
I want to get to the song Sandwiches on the new album, which I've been playing on the
Mm.
show. But first, tell me about you shot a video for the song Aeroplane Bathroom in an
Mm.
actual airplane graveyard. And those airplane graveyards, they're both fascinating and creepy to me at the same time. They make for
Mhm.
great movie sets and videos. But I heard tales of squatters and crocodiles and things like
Okay.
that. And this was in Bangkok, Thailand or something?
Yeah, so I'd flown to Europe to do some shows in February, and then we were trying to cram in this video shoot because the song was coming out, and is like always the way, like you're doing the video at the 11th hour, and we had decided on the director who we really liked, this guy Casimir Burgess, an Australian dude, and he was like, I think we should shoot it in this airplane graveyard in Bangkok, and I was like, man, that sounds really extravagant. Like, I don't know that that's, I think we should look in Australia. And we were looking in Australia, and it ended up being cheaper to fly to Bangkok than to, some remote part of Australia. So I flew there from Europe in the middle of like Corona blowing up. So like I bought a mask and got on a plane and, took like 6 like, flights to get there, and got my temperature checked all the way. And yeah, arrived in Bangkok. It was like sweltering and humid. And we shot for like 14 hours a day in this airplane graveyard. And we got there and there were all these squatters like at the gates. And they were like, no, you can't come in. And luckily we'd sort of contracted a local there to help us with all this sort of negotiation and hurdle. And she basically, we bribed them. We gave them $600 and they let us in to the, to the airplane. And yeah, we filmed all day. There was like all the kind of insulation had all obviously come down. So there was little like fiberglass dust everywhere. So we came out and we're all like covered in like little scratches and stuff. And at the end of one of the days, I was like walking along. They were like, oh, we're going to do a shot of you walking along this river, which didn't even end up making it in the damn video. But I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. And then I see this rustling in the water and the leaves. And I was with the local girl who we had with us. And I was like, what is that in the water? I was like, is that like, it's not like a crocodile, is it? And she was like, no, it's not a crocodile. It's a Thai crocodile. And I was like, what is the difference?
Yeah.
So,
wow. Unbelievable. Again, part of the movie that we're going to look for in the future. The song from the new album that I've been playing is Sandwiches, which is really great. Another cool video for that song too. Tell me about that song, and then we'll play it.
Yeah, so that song, it was actually the last song that I wrote for the record, and it's about the death of my grandmother. So we were really, really close. She, basically raised me. And yeah, I mean, she died when she was 95. So she had a really long, full life. But, it was still a total tragedy when she went, and it really devastated me and my family. I'd been traveling around a lot, like for many years. And strangely enough, I'd like returned home for these 6 weeks, because I'd run out of money, like traveling. And it coincidentally was the last 6 weeks of her life. So there was this really beautiful like serendipity about it that I got to sort of be there. And the title for the song comes from, it was a Saturday morning when she died, and we were all outside her room in the hospital. And my mum and I realized that nobody had kind of eaten all day, because everyone was sort of so absorbed in the moment. So we went down the street and got some basic supplies and came back, and we started making sandwiches outside her room. And then we were handing them out to all my dad and his siblings who were all there around the bed. And kind of as we took this one moment of pause to sort of, share a quick meal together, she just sort of slipped quietly away at that kind of moment. And so, yeah, I sort of chose to, start the song there, and then sort of move through it as a bit of a, just sitting in the little pool of memories of her life, which I think is the best way to, to connect with someone that's moved on.
What a beautiful story. And you're lucky that you can turn those feelings into something beautiful, like your grandma. Sophie Payten is her name. The new album from Gordi is Our Two Skins. Sophie, I can't wait for you to come back to New York City.
Me too, Jonathan.
We'll look for you in 2021. So thanks for joining us, and hope to see you soon.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.